Everyone. I am lucky enough to have Dr. Ann Dohrenwend joining me today to talk about what makes a badass. So, a little bit of history is I think Dr. Dohrenwend is a badass. So, she actually was one of my, I don't know if I want to call it professors or supervisors or mentors when I was in my health psychology fellowship in Flint. So, I've known her many years. She is she has a private practice in Ann Arbor, but she also specializes in physician and healthcare provider wellness. She is a writer. She wrote the introduction for Getting to Good Riddance. She has a lot to bring to the table, and I can't wait to ask her, Dr. Dohrenwend, what makes a badass?
So I gave this a little thought, and I want to say what I think a badass is not. So a badass is not a bombast, or we're seeing all these. I want to say big mouth. It's not a big mouth. It's not a bloviator. It's not one of these people who says, "I am great. I am great. Look at how great I am." That is not a badass. And there's been, I think, a lot of attention given to people who are like this, and they get the title of badass because they are nasty. And a badass is not nasty. A badass isn't bad, and they're not an ass. So, you know,
That is excellent.
to me, a badass is somebody primarily who knows themselves. They know their value. They know what they value, and they speak from the head and the heart without fear and with the boundaries of respect, within the boundaries of respect for the other. That doesn't mean not saying what you think and feel, but it does mean owning it, not just putting it on Twitter anonymously, or it does mean taking responsibility for it, that the information that you're sharing, what you're saying, comes from some place that is verifiable, that you can explain this is where it comes from. And said respectfully, respecting the other person's rights, and that they're entitled to their own opinion, and that may be different, and that doesn't mean you can threaten to shoot them or something, or that they're horrible or demonize them. And there's so much hate going around now that, when I hear the word badass, I think how it's been, we I think my idea of badass is not what's going around these days as badass.
I get it. So, for example, when people look at badass, this is the person who sort of has a ticket to be an asshole out in the world and not worry
Exactly.
about what other people are thinking.
Right. And
Mm.
not even have any legitimacy to what they're saying. They're just making stuff up. Or, we have politicians now who have, they've been vetted, and they've made up their background. There's a politician out now who's just made up that he went to school somewhere, etc. And we have people who have made up that voting machines weren't working. And when you dig down, they have no evidence of that. I mean, people are just talking out of their assholes, and that is not a badass. A badass, to really be a badass, um, I think you're somebody who, you know, takes takes the high road in the way you talk, but is somebody who is confident. So, and the trick is what is the difference between false confidence and true confidence? And the difference between maturity and immaturity.
So, as you talk about a badass, it takes a lot of courage. And I wonder if you have any ideas about how people can build badass, because fact of the matter is, we also live in a world where there is a lot of fakery on social media, and appearances aren't always what they seem to be. And if we judge ourselves according to that, It can be intimidating, I guess. So, do you have any ideas for how people can build their own internal badass?
I don't know who it was that said this, but somebody said, don't compare your insides with other people's outsides.
Mhm.
And, get putting comparisons with other people on the side. And I would say the most important thing about being a badass is reflection. We know that reflection builds wisdom, and people reflect in a whole lot of ways. You don't have to do meditation to reflect. My father-in-law used to sit outside with a cigar. He'd put a chair in the middle of the lawn with a cigar and a whiskey, and he would think. Maybe not the best for his health combination, but he a reflective guy, and, so reflection, I think, um, in the context always in the context of humility. So, reflecting, uh, I may not be right, but from my experience, this is what I think, and it's the humility that leaves you open and respectful in conversation, so with other people. So, you say you own what you think, you own where it comes from, and you say it clearly, and you don't assume that you know everything. But it's that confidence of you have the right to say what you think and feel, and you have something to offer. That makes a badass.
Yeah, and what you're describing is a lot of how you do it. So, yeah, having the confidence to say it, but also being open to feedback and reflecting on growing all along through the
And
process.
reflecting on what you're gonna say, really thinking about it. How do I know this? Where does this come from? Is this fair? Is this on target? Are there other sides to it? Um, but the badass part, like where you get that edginess, I think, is the willingness to say something that maybe other people are afraid to say, and the willingness to trust yourself that your perspective is important and you have the right to put it out there in the world.
Well, I think that's pretty badass. And now I've got a new term for the day, bloviator. Did you make that up or is that a real word?
That's a real badass word. No, it's not a badass word. It's like the opposite. No, it's somebody who's it sounds like it is. It's almost like an onomatopoeia,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
bloviator, like, mm,
I
you know.
know, that's why I'm like, "Wow, that's a real word." So I gotta look that up. But anyway, do you have anything you wanna leave us with?
No, I think that's it. I've said my piece,
Well, thank you for joining us, and, thank you for everything.
and thank you for your wonderful books. Bye-bye.